Hello and welcome back. You were tuned into TMH Daily English News. Thank you for all of you who are tuned in live with us throughout all of our social media platforms. The headlines for today include Ethiopia is currently in a new image crisis over all of the Tigrayan atrocities committed. Experts warn the death toll from the coming famine in Ethiopia could be within the millions, and fears of worsening insecurity in Ethiopia amid the continuous Oromia fighting. As we move on to the main stories for today, the Ethiopian government is facing a new image crisis over Tigrayan atrocities, and the government of Tigray has accused the federal government of tampering with evidence of mass massacres by allegedly moving bodies to unknown destinations. Last week, Addis Ababa failed to block a budgetary approval for a team of independent UN experts tasked to look into the acts of war crimes committed during the war in Tigray. But that also was compounded by additional findings by rights watchdogs, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International for the extrajudicial killings as well as the sexual violations. The two watchdogs implicated the Amhara security forces acting under Amhara Walqait officials who are accused of ethnic cleansing and other crimes in western Tigray while fighting for the government of Addis Ababa. The report, titled "We Will Erase You from This Land," a phrase coined from the harrowing testimony of a victim of forceful eviction, shows how simmering tensions in western Tigray resulted in extrajudicial executions, rape, as well as amongst other acts of sexual violence and mass killings as well. That saw hundreds of thousands fleeing to neighboring countries as the UN team, although opposed by Addis Ababa, prepares to launch a probe. The federal government was also facing fresh allegations of rushing to conceal evidence in the western Tigray zone. Ethiopian authorities are alleged to have been moving bodies from western Tigray to unknown destinations, a move that has since been questioned by the government of Tigray. However, these allegations came after the federal government of Ethiopia announced that the local university's research team had uncovered decades of old secretive mass grave sites in Walqait, Tagada, as well as Tsalemti. The government of Tigray, too, denied the claims of the accused and the federal government of tampering with evidence of mass massacres by allegedly moving the bodies to unknown destinations. Western Tigray is currently a crime scene, and these recent moves by the Amhara is an attempt to destroy evidence of the genocide, especially after the UN budget approval for an independent investigation by a panel of human rights experts at the United Nations Human Rights Council. It is an obstruction to justice and should be stopped, tweeted Kindeya Gebrehiwot, who is the official of the government of Tigray currently. On that same issue of deliberate attempts to obscure information and documentations of abuse, Karen Nutalia, African Advocacy Director of Human Rights Watch, had this to say to CBC.
We have to remember that there's been a serious lack of access, including for humanitarian groups, communication restrictions, and massive displacement. What makes it difficult in Ethiopia, unlike in Ukraine, is the deliberate, again, attempts to obscure the flow of information and documentation of abuses in real time, which we have on Ukraine. We don't have it on Western Tigray. And again, we also, Ethiopia being an African country, we also calling for African leaders who have been quite outspoken on Ukraine to show the same vigor and determination on crises like the one we see in Ethiopia, as well as other places in the continent.
She also stressed that the Human Rights Watch's call for objectivation on those crimes at the international level.
We believe that the gravity of the crimes we document warrants a referral to an international justice mechanism to prosecute perpetrators of war crimes and crimes against humanity. That's why we are calling on the International Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia, which has just begun its work to consider referring the situation in Western Tigray to such a mechanism. We're also calling on the African Commission on Human and People's Rights that's carrying out an investigation in Tigray. We need global solidarity. We need people to be more, and especially leaders, to be more targeted in how they respond to the crisis.
Co-founders of the organization aiming for health success warn the death toll from the coming famine in Ethiopia could be within the millions. Professor Nick Bozanquit, as well as Andrew Haldenby, sounded the alarm in an open letter they published in the Financial Times under the title, "Act Now on the Food Stocks to Avert Famine." The writers caution that the 1983 to the 85 famine in Ethiopia led to 1.2 million deaths, and toll from the coming famine there could be in millions as well. They said Northern Hemisphere nations can set up emergency stocks for Africa as well as the Middle East and South Asia. They added that it may be necessary to restrict highly inefficient sources of food, such as beef productions. Without international action, the world faces, the writers emphasize, that there could be a huge increase both in deaths from starvation and the development and loss of children, including young people. They noted that there's still time to remedial action, as the UN World Food Program can do what they did back and managed to do so in Ethiopia in the year of 2003. Fears of worsening insecurity in Ethiopia and Oromia amidst the ongoing continued fighting in the country's most populous region, Oromia, between the government forces and the Oromo Liberation Army is raising concerns of worsening insecurity in the southern region of the country. Authorities in Oromia said they have launched a month-long offensive against OLA, but OLA says it is winning the battle currently. OLA spokesperson Oda Taribi said security forces from neighboring region, Somali, have deployed into Oromia to provide support to the government in the fight. The senior Somali region official dismissed this allegation as untrue, but added forces from his region could enter Oromia if invited. There are fears that an escalation in fighting in the south could deepen the political and humanitarian crisis in the country is currently facing. In related development, Somali's president, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, has been accused of plotting to deploy foreign troops to Gedo. Jubaland disclosed that 4 days ago, a closed-door security meeting was held in Dolo and Gedo with Ethiopian security teams under the stewardship of General Tashama Ayelo, and the attendance were a member of Somali parliament and representative of President Farmajo Abdullahi and head of Ethiopian Somali Region Special Police, Commander Mohammed Ahmed Haji, was located. The Somalian president has been battling to control the restless region in Jubaland, and security analyst Rashid Abdi said in a tweet that the Ethiopian military's intelligence met Kulan and a plane has been hatched to disrupt the elections, prepare for the insertion of Eritrean trained troops, to put a contingency plan in place to give Farmajo a safe exit via Gedo. In an interview with Universal TV, former Hirschball President Mohammed Abdi said the meeting was convened to strategize the deployment of Ethiopian and Eritrean forces into the Somali region, Special Force Police, and the Kalan militia marshaled in Baidabo, Somalia as well. That wraps up our news for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.